What's going on, guys? It's me, PTP Tega. Welcome back to Fights and Fragz. This is episode 3 of the Fights and Fragz podcast, where we talk mostly MMA. If there's any gaming news that I'm particularly interested in, or I think that people, are hype about, then we'll talk about that. But just, it's a great week for MMA. Great month, really, in all for MMA. So, we're just going to cover that. Because right now the gaming scene is kind of bleh, in my opinion. But I will say that I think everybody knows this now, but if you don't, the UFC 303 presser is going to be in Dublin, Ireland. That's crazy. Think about Conor's fight, Conor versus Chandler. The presser's in Dublin. They're both going to be just completely wild. Think about, this is Conor's hometown, essentially. I don't know if it's hometown, but his home grounds. All the Conor's fans, you already know how the Irish show up to all the other fights, where the entire crowd, you can hear them doing the chants, and so now it's going to be in Dublin at the press conference. And you got Conor, who he hasn't really talked a lot of crap since the fight's been announced. Before he'd do the little Twitter jabs here or there. They had the Ultimate Fighter, which he kind of put a little bit of hands on Chandler, but it's been an interesting last, I'd say, 2 years of them building this fight to be. What if it just went to a decision, though? But yeah, just to be this great fight. Now they're going to put the presser on in Dublin, which is insane. Most fighters, I don't think, would have been down for this idea. They would have been very upset because, some people don't want to do the traveling for the event. Not really the event, but the press itself, because it's going to interrupt their training. And guess what? Chandler said he's going to do it. He's going to step into the lion's den. He's getting in there to just face the lion that is Conor McGregor in the lion's den. That's incredible. And it's, maybe I don't know enough about Chandler, but he's kind of like a good guy, He's really wholesome. He's, this Christian mentality. He talked about how he was, I guess you call it dating. He had dated his current wife. They're married now and stuff. I guess through emails and stuff. I guess that's kind of like respectful. Some fighters. Part of me hopes Conor brings all this up and we get the old Conor that just. That's what sells Conor's fights, and the fact that he, one of the few fighters who would talk it and then back it up in the end. He just kind of did that. Whereas other fighters, they could talk it, but really couldn't back it up too well. They weren't knocking people out and anything. Conor had that streak there where he was just, they called him Mystic Mac. He'd call the round, and obviously that Conor is probably gone. A lot of that Conor was a Conor McGregor who cut a lot of weight to get down to where he needed to be, which is common in the MMA, sphere. But just being realistic, that was the Conor that was. Now that we have this heavier Conor who's fighting guys who are essentially doing what he was doing, which is cutting to get to that weight, he's really putting himself at a great disadvantage, and and to me personally, it's brave that any fighter that does that, any fighters who naturally go up in weight, incredibly brave and whatever you want to call it, to their talent. It just looks good on them. John Jones is one of them, currently, what I'm saying? And even in the past, there's some that I can't think of right now that are on the top of my brain, that they go up in weight, BJ Penn, and are just natural savages that go in there and bang, And the fact that, like I said, you got Michael Chandler. I don't want to ride Conor too much, I guess you'd call it, but Michael Chandler also, same thing. Guy likes standing there and bang. He likes to put on a show. He doesn't seem to turn down fights. He's been waiting this Conor fight for quite a while. He's been sitting on the shelf, patiently waiting for this Conor fight since they first had announced it. And it's here. I mean, officially, not officially, but it's here. And I bet if you're Chandler, you feel real good now that the images have came out of Conor partying. I guess it's like 10 weeks from his fight. And there are images of him out partying 10 weeks. And I know that he was saying, I'd seen somewhere he had, talked about how he's staying off the alcohol, all that. I mean, I guess you could party and not drink, I guess. I didn't see the photos myself. I seen like a still of it. I don't know if it's videos or whatever. But I see that they were leaking. They were coming out everywhere that, there was videos of him partying 10 weeks before the fight. There's a meme, and it was like Chandler 10 weeks before the fight. And it's like showing him like in a sparring session. And it's like Conor training 10 weeks before a fight, and it's him like partying. I was listening to Ariel Helwani and them, and they made a joke about, Conor doing his cardio in the club. Which is hilarious to think about. Could he still be playing mind games? It's going to definitely sell a fight a little more to different odds. Like for instance, I say this, I know it's like a different type of fighting organization, but Ryan Garcia essentially pretended to be crazy for fights leading up to his David Haney fight. He missed weight. I did a lot of things that just looked like he wasn't taking it serious, and then came in and blew him out of the water. And come to find out it was because the odds were crazy and he bet on himself. At least this is all it's self-projected. I don't think that, I don't have any hard evidence aside from he said that this is what he did, But the fact that he did that and it made his odds. I guess the fighters can't really bet on themselves in the UFC. Because a lot of them, I guess, aren't allowed to gamble. I don't really know. I just know that they're not allowed to gamble or make picks because, it could be considered setting up. Anyway, I digress from that to go back to, I think that Conor could be playing mind games with Chandler. Once again, I didn't see it. I'm not there. I have no clue. This could be an old photo. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a current photo and it's just something. Maybe Conor's out, maybe not drinking. When I say not partying, when I say not drinking and saying Conor partying, not drinking, look, man, maybe it's just me being the Conor fanboy. I'm like, please don't be sabotaging it, please. But, maybe he's trying to get Chandler's guard down, but definitely Chandler's going to go into this 100% serious. I feel better knowing that Chandler's definitely going to be making a bag off this fight, just as Conor is, but everybody making great money. Chandler, who's a great guy, making great money. It's gonna be a great fight, man. And the videos of him coming out and partying, him being Conor, doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest with you. I think that we're probably gonna get that Conor who's dealing with demons, but Conor's talking about he's gonna fight he's got 3 or 4 more fights in him this year. Pretty sure he said he wanted to stay active this year and just kind of bounce back to back. He was talking about wanting to fight the Sphere. I don't see that happening, but it would be nice. We'll see, right? We'll see. But what do you guys think? Who do you guys got? Conor McGregor, who's been partying, or Michael Chandler, who's probably been at home, studying his Bible and getting them workouts? I don't know. My money's probably still on the Mystic Mac just because. Please, Conor, make it happen. How's this for a fight that you didn't see coming? Recently, all but announced, the fight is Marlo Chito Vera versus Davidson Figueiredo. That's right. Figgy stepping up to fight Sean O'Malley's biggest hater, Marlo Chito Vera. Marlo's even the slight favorite in this fight so far. No one really asked for this fight to happen, but I'm kind of excited for it. It's 2 two somewhat, well, I'm going to say this. Deiveson Figueiredo, to me, is an exciting fighter. Marlon Vera, he's okay, I guess. He seems, I'm not excited about Marlon Vera, but like their style matchup versus each other to me is very, very exciting. This division itself is already an incredibly stacked division of talent, man. Like, if you look through that whole roster of everybody that's there, it's just killers, stacked. And, like, that's what the UFC meant to happen. But that division in particular, man, it just... just a who's who of just killers, dude. Like, insane. And they're all, like, kind of championship material. It's just you got one guy who just kind of runs the whole thing, and every other guy, same thing. Like, they could... anybody's day. You know, they're just some savages. You know, it's any one of those guys could beat the other guy technically, and because it's MMA, but I don't know. It's just a who's who. It's a real killer. Like I said, I don't know. Some divisions have like fighters who, you know, their top 10s are like, that guy's okay, but you know, but this has got a division of fighters who are insane. So you add Deiveson Figueiredo to that mix. Man, you know, this guy, he was flyweight, I believe, and he's been fighting in this division now. I think that they are both also tied for like 10th place in like a global position or whatever. So that also kind of decides who wins that 10th place, I suppose. When you look at the records of the fighters, like Figgy seems to finish or get finished quite at least his last few fights. I think he had one that dropped to a decision, but the other ones, you know, he had the title, you know, 3 or 4 fights ago. Not insane for him to kind of come up here and just wreck house. You know, he's won his last fight. It's not bad. It's not a bad fight. All right, it's not a bad fight. It's pretty good. It's an incredible story to an already stacked division. Like I said, this guy could come up and just be, I wouldn't say he's going to be the kryptonite, but he's an incredible competitor to add to the division of what I call the journeymen or the gatekeepers, or, you know, people really hate that term, but that's what I call them, the guys who, you know, they try to get to the title, but it seems like they always can't get there. And I mean that with a term of endearment, because those guys are killers, dude. Regardless, the title is just like to me as a fan, the title's like, congrats, you've made it to the top. How long can you hold this type of thing, you know? And it doesn't diminish how good you are, because to me your record would like really show how good you are, like versus who you fought. But, you know, you do have some guys who have just been killers like John Jones and stuff, who they made it to the top and they seem to have just held it until they couldn't hold it. And it's not by loss, but by like their body giving out, or just having to give it up, you know, going up in divisions. Some real killers, you know. Titles are cool, but titles aren't everything unless you're really just that man. But back to the records, like I said, he has a pretty good like last few fights. Vera, well, you know, we all know he had lost to O'Malley via decision. In my opinion, it was a pretty bad loss. He didn't really look good in that fight. And then he ran into Pedro Munoz, decision. And then he lost to Corey Sandhagen, decision. Cheeto, split decision. Vera, you know, not really trashing the guy, dude. He's a good fighter. He's just not my style. But when you put these two fighters in the octagon together, it's going to be fireworks. They're going to put on a good show. Despite all me trying to tear down Cheeto Vera, he is not a bad fighter. This matchup's actually pretty good. I think they're looking at Abu Dhabi as the time that where they want to fight it, set it. Man, like that's actually exciting. Like I said, can't wait for this fight. My money's still on Figgy because Figgy knows how to throw him. He likes to stand in there and bang, and he's kind of good everywhere. Not that Cheeto's bad. He's just, he's boring, man. He's just boring. So, yeah, we're going to go with Figgy on this one. Who do you guys got? Marlo Cheeto Vera or Davidson Figueroa? Breaking fight news. Maybe not when this podcast itself goes up, but I just seen they announced the man, the myth, the legend, Nick Diaz is returning to the UFC in August. Nick Diaz, who's 26-10, is going to fight Vicente Luque, who's 22-10. It's been announced it's a 5-round welterweight bout at UFC Fight Night August 3rd in Abu Dhabi. This fight was just announced. Dude, that's amazing. I didn't know that this dude was even fighting anymore, so I'm pretty excited for that, dude. That's an amazing fight. That whole card's a pretty good card. You got Corey Sandhagen. He's fighting Umar Nurmagomedov. I don't know why I can't say that when I'm looking at it for some reason. And that fight's good too, Corey being 17-4 and Umar, he's undefeated. Can Corey stop him? Can Corey put that loss on his record? Or is Umar going to just be that same thing with the rest of these Dagestani fighters and just blast through? That's also the same card that, as we explained, Davison Figueroa versus Marlon Cheeto Vera. That's on there. Mackenzie Dern versus Loopy Goddings. And they also announced that there is a fight between Tony Ferguson and Michael Chiesa. So that's in a crazy good arena. A crazy good card. Like I said, that's in Abu Dhabi. So, man, I can't wait for that. Look what you got. You got Diaz coming back to fight. Old Nick Diaz, the man. Who do you guys have, Nick Diaz or Vicente Luque? And don't forget, it's been a little while since Diaz fought. Is ring rust a thing? Is it not? I don't know. I guess you'll have to make that decision. UFC 302 is going to be the first card that is using the new glove design. Supposedly supposed to break down eye pokes. It's supposed to, cut down on eye pokes. It's supposed to just be a better glove for the athletes so they don't break their hands as much. And it's just supposed to be an overall better glove. On top of, during championship fights, they will be wearing gold gloves. Well, how do you think the athletes feel about it? There hasn't been a lot of talk about it, but if you've watched the media day releases, you did see there was a couple of fighters who, I guess, were asked about the gloves. Islam said he didn't like them. Sean Strickland went as far as saying that the gloves suck, and that he felt like they were designed by guys who's never thrown a punch. Islam actually said that, he expects more cuts because of the gloves. I guess because they're smaller. Someone said because of the stitching. How do you think the fighters feel? Should the fighters have had a say-so? Did they have a say-so? When you seen the lead up to these gloves, you had talked about how, or that you had heard and seen how they had said they had went around to other fighters and gave them opportunities to put input, and that they were testing them at gyms and all of these things, and it's strange that now all of a sudden fighters don't like them. Fighters just like the gloves. Why is that? Were they not tested enough? Or is this that idea that, some people just don't like change, sometimes, you get used to something, that being like your normal job or something at home, and you just get used to it, and all of a sudden something changes. Now, whether it's for the better or worse, you just don't like it because it's just change in general. You got to do something different. It feels weird. It feels different. One of the reasons that Sean Strickland said that he didn't like the glove is because something about eye pokes, that they said that it would reduce eye pokes, and he said that that's not an issue, that if you don't open your hands, you won't poke people in the eyes. That was what he said. I don't know. He said, it's like getting hit in the head. If you move your head more, you won't get hit in the head. And he's kind of right. If fighters would stop opening their hands while they threw punches, there'd be less eye pokes. It seems almost regular. And I know that sometimes, you reach out and you get your distance, but maybe in order to reduce eye pokes, they should just start penalizing eye pokes more. That seems to be a pretty good solution, but they went the glove route, making it a little bit more difficult, I suppose, to make your hands fully open to make contact with the eyeball. It'll be interesting. I wonder who will be the first fighter who loses and blames it on the gloves. Also, will these gloves allow Dustin Poirier to put that smackdown on Islam? I don't know. I'm excited to see. Checking out the media day, hoping that, maybe, just maybe, there's a little sign of who's maybe feeling a little bad, who's not having a good training session. But to me, it seems like everybody looks good. The gloves aren't really a worry to anybody. But could they be a problem? Will they be a problem? Who's going to blame them as the problem? Guess we'll have to stick around and see. It is Saturday. UFC 302 is today. What an exciting day. What an exciting day. I'd like to have had this bit put up yesterday, but it is okay. I will not, and this will not be edited as well. There's going to be a little bit more maybe background audio in this segment because I'm last minute doing it once again from my car. Before clocking into work. But let me tell you, we got to see the weigh-ins, we got to see the presser, and then we got to see the ceremonial weigh-ins, and they were great. Islam and Dustin, when they both weighed in really early, which is amazing. They were both on weight, which was great. You know this if you're a fan. If not, congratulations. Thanks for watching the podcast. That's what I'm here for. There's a little dust up at the presser. Seems like it was just a misunderstanding of Dustin saying, I'm going to knock you out, MFer. And Russians don't like that. They take that word very serious as far as saying, I guess, that like the inbred thing, like they're having sexual relations with their mothers. So like, it was just a misunderstanding. If you watch, I think it's the latest updated fight vlog or whatever you call that on the UFC page, they showed Dustin apologizing to Islam and explaining, what he meant. And Islam was just like, yeah, we don't say that in my country. And, it was just a misunderstanding. They're still going to put on a great show. I'm positive, just as good as, I'm just as positive, let's say, as Dustin is, that Islam is just going to take him down. And Dustin kept telling him, hey, you're going to go for my legs, aren't you? You're going to go for my legs, aren't you? Practically asking him to stand up and bang with him. Saying, why don't you listen to your coaches and box with me. Look, man, I would love to see Dustin knock out Islam. Maybe got a little money on it, But let's just be honest here. Islam's probably going to wrestle him, hold him down, submit him by round 2. But I'm excited to see it. Dustin can go either way. Can he finish his story? Can he capture that undisputed belt to put that big dot on the end of his career, and then he could do whatever. I mean, he can still do whatever. I don't think he needs it personally, but he can, I guess. It'd be nice, I would say. I don't think he needs it though to solidify his career as one of the baddest in the division in the UFC, honestly. So we'll see how that plays out. I love this fight. I cannot wait. I am so excited for this fight tonight. And then just a random little thing. Strickland and Costa both weigh in. Strickland also was one of the earliest to weigh in. He looked really healthy. He didn't look sick. He didn't look really emaciated or anything. He kind of just, he looked normal. He acted normal. Costa weighed in a little later. However, who knows? Like, I see Costa when I seen him weigh in. But, of course, you're going to be really dehydrated and sucked in. He looked pretty rough. He was still able, to flex and everything. But I've seen a lot of, in his face, it seemed like muscle cramps. But once again, they've rehydrated. They're back up to weight today. They did that yesterday morning. So they've had a little over 24 hours to rehydrate. Alrighty. So here are my picks for the main card. You have Randy Brown versus Elizu Zielinski dos Santos. I'm going to go with Randy Brown on that one. Got Nico Price versus Alex Moreno. Look, man, Alex Moreno's the man. Alex is going to drop him. Alex is by whatever decision he wants. You got Kevin Holland versus Michael, and I can't say his last name. I'm about to go with my boy Kevin Holland because he's from Texas. You know what I'm saying? We got to stick together. Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa. I think Sean Strickland's going to outlast Paulo Costa. I don't think Paulo Costa's going to be slick enough to catch him. I think that this is going to go to a decision. I'd like it to go to a bang out. But I think both of these fighters, they're going to come out and they're going to go to swinging. I take back what I said. I don't think it's going to go to a decision, but I think that Sean Strickland's going to catch a gassed Paulo Costa. Not an early Paulo Costa, not a full of energy Paulo Costa. This is going to be like a late third, fourth, fifth round exhausted Paulo Costa, and Sean Strickland's going to catch him. And Paulo Costa's going to have a problem picking apart that Philly shell style defense. And then we have the main event for the lightweight title. Islam Makhachev versus Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Currently, the odds are minus 675 for Islam, plus 490 for Dustin. The lines are cooked. If you're an Islam fan, you cannot make it's going to be hard to make money off of this, even if you parlay it. Dustin is the underdog. This would be an amazing victory for Dustin, but I got to go with what everything in me says is Islam's going to take him, lay on him and hold him down. I don't think Dustin's really going to spark him. I put the money on it that Dustin's going to spark him. It was plus 700 for a knockout. I have no clue what it was for a submission. No clue what it was for a decision. But I know for a knockout, when I made my bet, it was plus 700. You cannot pass up that opportunity because Dustin has the ability to do it. He's just got to catch him. However, I don't think Islam's going to give him that ability. I think he's going to shoot the takedown. And unless Dustin hits him with that Jorge Masvidal knee, it's just not going to happen. So I'm going to say go with Islam. Alrighty, guys. So that wraps up this week's Fights and Fragz podcast. UFC 302 tonight. Hopefully, you guys make some money on some bets, and hopefully it's going to be an amazing card. Everything goes great, and no fighters pull out. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. I'll catch you guys next week when we talk about the fights and what we saw go down. Later.